They say that 90% of startups ultimately fail, but you only ever really hear about the ones that succeed. I've had my fair share of failed projects in the past, so I thought to readdress that balance I would go over them in this video, explain what went wrong and why they ultimately failed. Hello, I'm Chris Pattle. I make videos about software engineering and entrepreneurship. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please do consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss a future video. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I'm always tinkering away on a side hustle with the hopes of turning it into a fully fledged business.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
I mean, that's the dream for most software engineers. Build something that makes a passive income, and who knows, maybe in the future Apple or Google will come along and buy it for millions of dollars. This is a goal that I've been trying to reach since 2016, but I've had my fair share of mistakes and blunders along the way. So I thought I'd go over my experiences, tell you what I learned, and maybe you can learn something from this too. Now, a quick disclaimer, if you are triggered by stupidity and general incompetence, you have been warned, please turn away now. Right, on to rankaday.com. Now, Rankaday is a web app that I built with a very simple premise. Every day it gives you a random question and you have to give your top 3 answers. So for example, one of those questions might be, what is the best James Bond movie? I'm going to pick my top 3 as Casino Royale, GoldenEye and Goldfinger. Then once you submit your results, you can see how your answers compare to other people and you can share it on social media and keep that conversation going. So it's meant to follow the Wordle model of just being something fun and simple that you can do every day. Now, in total, it only took me 3 or 4 days to build this, and shortly after launch, I decided to post it on Reddit, and actually did really, really well. I had over 20,000 users on the site in a single day, and I was just able to gain some really valuable feedback about how to improve it in that time. After that initial hype had worn off, I was getting a consistent 200 to 300 users per day, which is not too bad. It was fairly steady at that rate. However, one night I was working late and I was just looking at the questions that were coming up in the near future. And one of those questions was, what is the best Bill Murray movie? I was looking at the answers and I realised I'd accidentally put Ghostbusters 2 twice instead of Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. So I jumped onto the database server to just quickly fix this. And if you've ever worked with a MySQL database, you'll know that anytime you write an update query, you start with the table name, followed by the column you want to update, and then finally the rows you want to apply this change to. So my update query was update answers, set answer to Ghostbusters where ID equals 2491, so I only really wanted to change one row. However, when I was typing this, I accidentally missed off the where clause, meaning that every answer to every question in the database was now set to Ghostbusters. This was a pretty rookie mistake, one I wouldn't normally make. And it was compounded by the fact that I didn't have a backup of the database. Normally, I'd probably take a backup every day, but because it was a new site, I just got it going. I hadn't done that yet. So yeah, as you can imagine, it was a very embarrassing situation, and my knee-jerk reaction was, I don't want anyone to see this.
How do we hide this?
So I just took the site offline. Perhaps looking back, this was a bit of a mistake, but like I said, it was late at night, I was very tired, and I just didn't know who to call. This was 2 years ago now, and it definitely hurt at the time because the site was showing a little bit of promise. However, the good news is I have actually recently brought the site back online, so if you do want to check it out, I've left a link to it in the description down below. I just think it's a really good concept. It's a fun thing to do every day. When I set this site up, I've got a group chat I'm in, and yeah, every day we were kind of posting our answers and having a discussion about it. Just got people talking. Right, from my most recent failed side project to my first, which was another web app called Scinder. Now, I'm really into running and cycling, always have been.
I'm a runner.
I used to use Strava to upload my activities, but I always found that Strava never really offered me the kind of in-depth analytics that I wanted. So I set about building Scinder, which was aimed to be a premium analytics service for runners and cyclists. I spent quite a long time building this, around 1.5 years, and then after launching it was doing okay. I was getting a steady stream of sign-ups to the point where I was at maybe a couple of hundred users. But one problem I quickly ran into was that under the hood I was using the Strava API, and that has a very strict rate limit on it. So a rate limit means the number of times you can call that API in a given period of time. So even though I didn't have that many users, I was already hitting this limit. and didn't know what to do. One option was to cut out this middleman or Strava and integrate directly with the Garmin API. Now, if you don't know, Garmin is probably the leading sports watch manufacturer, but at the time their API had a £10,000 license fee, and I just didn't have that money. Even if I did have that money, it's quite a big gamble to take on something. So I was kind of stuck in a dead-end situation really, and just decided to wind down the site gracefully. In hindsight, I definitely should have researched any potential problems that I might run across before I started this. This probably would have only taken me a couple of hours and saved me almost 2 years of my life, so that would have definitely been worth doing. After I shut down Scinder, I wanted something else to work on, so I started building a HR system. The reason I started this was because every HR system I've used at companies I've worked at has been terrible. I was thinking, surely I can do this better, and started building OctopusHR. Now, it does what you'd expect from most HR systems. So as a company, you can register and you can sign up your employees. Your employees can then log in, book holiday, book sick time, set themselves targets. It's just a way to store, personal details about your employees. Everything you'd expect, really. However, this was another example of me not doing my research before I started, because I completely overlooked the fact that there's actually a lot of laws and procedures and regulations that you need to adhere to if you want to store personal data about people. So, for example, in this case, it'd be like dates of birth, where people live, perhaps even passport pictures, things like that. And especially now that we have all of the GDPR laws, it's just a very important thing that you have to adhere to. However, even if I did want to jump through all of those hoops, from speaking to a few companies, I quickly learned that people are very unwilling to place their trust in just a single software engineer running something out of his bedroom, which I can completely understand, really. Plus, one other thing, it was just like a really boring thing to work on this. I mean, it's a lot easier working on something when you're passionate about it, and out of all the things I could have worked on, I don't know why I chose the HR system. It was just not the most exciting. Now, many of you might be thinking, why don't I just keep these sites running? But it does cost me money every year that I decide to do that. It's not much, but it definitely adds up when you've got maybe, 4 or 5 projects that aren't really doing anything and you can't really justify them from a business aspect. And so there you have it. That is the final list. I just wanted to make this video actually because social media these days is full of success stories, and it's very easy to feel as though everybody in the world is successful apart from you. But in life, you're always going to fail. In fact, I think it's impossible to get anywhere and reach any goals that you set yourself without failing first. It's like that Samuel Beckett quote says, try again, fail better. As long as you're learning from the mistakes you've made, you're going to keep moving forward. And the other important thing is to just enjoy the journey. I think so often we kind of tell ourselves, I'll be happy when I get this, or I'll be happy when I achieve this. But if you're not enjoying the journey of getting there and the process of getting there, what's the point in doing it in the first place? So even though with these projects I'd probably invested hundreds, thousands of hours into them, I actually enjoyed that time, because at the end of the day, for me, software engineering is a hobby. So I wouldn't have it any other way, really. That concludes this video. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help me out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.